Well, we're here today to talk about five of my favorite letters in the alphabet, PMO and AR, and both at the same time. So this can be a fascinating discussion. Just to introduce myself, first of all, my name is Professor Andy Bodson. I'm the Chief Executive of the Association for Project Management. Uh, I'm My job today really is to facilitate our two experts and make sure that we're not still here at 9 o'clock tonight, listening to the wisdom that they've got to share with you. But we had a great chat about some of this stuff last week, and the interest a real treat, both loving and learning. I suspect today. So before we get started and dive into the discussion, we have to do some introductions. So, Sharp, would you like to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Star Sumner. I work for a company called the Access Group. Believe it or not, Adam, I've been doing this 30 years. I hate to say that out loud because that's for my age a bit, but I do love it, and we're fintech the full time. I'm really excited today to talk to you about kind of the innovations that we're seeing for the fifth and the long time in the area of.
Fantastic. And Adriana?
I'm Adriana. Nice to meet you, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm head of PMO and governance in UAE right now, and always been interested in PMO, change management, most of my field consulting, and glad to be here and share on my knowledge and things about TN.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So we're broadly dividing a discussion today to kind of three sections. So we're going to talk, first of all, around innovation and impact. We're then going to talk a little bit about rolling out new technologies, driving adoption. And then lastly, also think about the future, looking ahead and the AI augmented PMO, which is very exciting indeed. But look, let's get started by thinking about things like return on investment, operational priorities. Whilst we all love innovation, I think it's also true that whenever we do any kind of innovation, we've always got to be able to demonstrate that the value side of things. So maybe, Shah, if you want to start us up, tell us a bit about how you use innovation to drive return on investment on all zero.
It's really interesting, and I'd like to, get a show of hands here. Um, the biggest change we probably seen in the last 10 years with AI. I think everyone can agree there with that. 6 months ago, we didn't really hear much about it, and all of a sudden, everything is AI driven. And, at first, it's like me for this morning, I was a bit of a skeptic and how we can reduce this and got our parameters. And I had to really embrace it. So the things that I found has doing was instead of having these long meetings, at the beginning of the year to say, what are we going to invest in this year? What are those big projects? And now we had to become more agile because, again, for that first time, you still have that triangle, right? With time being the one that is a bit more flexible now with AI. And so now you're actually being able to look at our projects different and for the first time and saying things like, what is the art of the possibility? Where can we get the most value back with AI? So again, we're being more iterative. So monthly, we're meeting to talk about how we are going to invest. What can you bring to the table faster? And it's really quite interesting because we can use the power of AI now to look more at the analytics and get that return on investment quicker. And really, when we talk about return on investment, what is it? Is it that we can go to market quicker with our software? Is it that I can move a DC faster? Is it that I now can have AI doing the work of an SGE? So it's open up the art of the possibility, which I don't think we've ever had this before without the hard work that we've had to put in. I think the one thing that we're looking at as a software company is not only the technology side, but how we can use AI in our projects to work with our customers a lot easier.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And you mentioned the iron triangle there, sir. I wonder whether actually the iron triangle is becoming a bit of a more malleable method these days. A lead triangle, maybe.
Yeah,
With AI and iteration. No?
absolutely.
Brilliant. Adriana, same question to you, but all your kids.
Of course, for me, the totally agree with charts. And in terms of AI, it's true that is a little bit like we have now the AI, and it's difficult to to calculate ROI or to identify what things are bringing value. Yesterday we were talking in the CAB meeting, like the AI right now is like, it remembers me like 5 years ago, everything was big data and everyone wanted big data. And sometimes you need to stop, think, and just identify what is the best solution for you for each of the times. So for I think that the most important part, because it's not always easy to calculate the ROI as you were saying, and I think that the most important part is for it to be aligned in your strategic, or where are you going, or what you need to, like, to have the full view of where you want to be at in some years from now, and align these strategies with that more than, yes, of course, we have budget, resources, and everything to take into account, but it's the super important part is that our executive committee, or that our line of projects and all the things that we do in AI pull to a certain language that we see the strategy in our future.
Yeah, they said, sure. Can I just pick up on something you said before, backing something that will be on lots of people's minds, which is you talk about, would we actually look at technology replacing, AI in particular, replacing people, FTEs, and so on. I know that's a conversation that's happening in like every business across the land, right? So,
Yeah.
one of my reflections on this is that if I think about previous technological innovations before AI, it's often been the case that in order for the tech to be successful, it's required the kind of people side of it and the kind of the buy-in, if you like, and the energy that people bring to drive that kind of change. Are there any risks that if we lose some of the people, that in itself causes the tech innovation that we're trying to deliver to be less successful somehow? Or will it just go? Will it just work?
It won't. And this is an interesting one. I'm sure everyone is dealing with right now. People are nervous about losing their jobs. If they were to look at some of the tools that we're using now, they're at a junior software bulk level, and those kids are what am I going to do now? But we have to embrace it. AI can't look at the political tension in a room. They don't know the story behind change. It can't do that. We do need those people. And how many people here had mentors that you learned from? How many times did we make mistakes and someone was there to pick us up and say, this is how we do it? AI can't replace that. So having those strategic conversations of where we want to go next in a group, I used to call it warboarding, and I'd still love to do it with the team. AI can't replace it, but what it helps us to do is to accelerate. So think it as a partner, like we talked about today with the teammates. They're your partner to accelerate what we're doing, not necessarily to replace.
Yeah. I wonder if we might see something slightly counterintuitive happening. And for those of you who are old enough in the room to remember when the Excel spreadsheet first came in years and years and years
Best
ago.
project plan, best project plan ever.
But there were all these newspaper articles at the time, I remember, which said, oh, we won't need financial analysts anymore because the spreadsheet is just going to do everything. And in fact, what happened is it created so much more data that we needed even more financial analysts. And I just wonder whether we might see something similar that happens here where, yes, some of the jobs might go, but we end up with more of a different type of role to deal with, as you were saying, the big data and the greater number of insights and the faster pace of organizations and all of that type of thing,
Yeah, can you
Yeah.
imagine having time, Adriana? I think in your day, having time. So those repeatable actions that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. How many Friday afternoons are taken up writing status reports? I mean, it is absolutely. I mean, I would like to take the Friday afternoon, I don't know, Adriana, and be a bit more strategic. And using products like Asana, which we've never had before. If you were to think we had project tools that help us roll out a project. But imagine a Friday afternoon when you can sit with your team, sit with your stakeholders, because you have that time freed up to be able to do more strategic work.
Of course, I think that those repetitive tasks we're seeing today in the morning, like, it would help us a lot, even if it's just the status report of all the projects, or to have a dashboard that gets up automatically. And we can see all the different KPIs that we need in terms of PMO. That for sure would free us a lot of time and be able to make the good decisions that we need to make, and have that time to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think the predictability, that's another area that, I mean, if we were to look at your portfolio and how many hundreds of projects we've run, and to go back and look at our lessons learned to say, "Oh, where did we go wrong? Oh, where could we, optimize this now?" We actually use AI hand in hand, to do that quicker, to not make those same mistakes, to forecast risks a lot better. And so again, that return on investment comes in by saving the time so we can say it. I don't want to say it, but take on more work.
No, it makes sense, and actually perfect segue to talk about lessons learned. We've already said that change is not just about tools; it's about people. And there was a recent report from Asana and the crossing the 5 AI chasms. And in there's the great statistic. It talks about 75% of employees experience digital exhaustion. I don't know about anybody else. That's definitely something I've experienced before. So whether it's AI or a shift in process, how you bring people along often determines the kind of success or failure. And PMO leaders, I think, have to be these kind of champions, evangelists, or almost translators, therapists. There's lots of words we could use. So let's talk a bit about that, those lessons learned, and how you kind of drive those adoptions. So, Adriana, I'm going to come to you first. Can you give us maybe a real world challenge that you've faced in trying to roll out a new technology or a new way of working, maybe, and tell us a bit about the lessons that you learned on that journey?
First, for me, it's true that project management and PMO has to always have a change manager on its side. It's mandatory. We are working with people, and in order to implement or to deploy new systems, you need to think always about the process and the people that are behind. The tool is just an enabler for us to work, maybe to work more efficiently or whatever, but you need to focus on the people that are behind this transformation. For us, for example, it was when we deployed Asana, it was one of our biggest challenges in the last years. It made a cultural change. It's not the tool. The tool, we all know it, we all love it, and it's a perfect tool to use. It's like to start using it super easy, but you need to think about the ways of work that you want to implement in this sense. For us, we were talking, Sharon and I, yesterday, that for us, it was we identified. We did like a super broad webinar to show the tool for everyone to know how it did work, but it was more technical point of view. In order to deploy it, it was for us, it was more important to go area by area, department by department, identifying the use cases that they needed, the templates that they needed, the dictionary that they would use, so that everyone used it in the same way in the different in their own department, in their way to use it as an Asana custom made for them, so that they would see the value of using this new tool and not get overwhelmed with all the tools that they need to use every day. And then moving on from that one, what we would do was to communicate, to create a community for everyone to share all the good practices in project management and to adapt their way of work. And between the different departments, it's true that we have like a certain level of standardization, but each of them has their own Asana custom made for them so that they could use it in their day-to-day tasks and projects.
Yeah, I love that. And what I love about that as well is it's not just about kind of lessons learned, it's kind of lessons applied, right? You've taken that learning and kind of rolled it forward. So I think that's sometimes the bit we forget, isn't it? There's so much learning that we've done sometimes, it's remembering that. And I wonder whether actually we all also sometimes need to look back more, because I think especially when you're in the kind of tech and innovation space, we're always thinking about the next thing, whether it's the next iteration or, in terms of agile, whether it's, the next product or the next iteration of the software. But actually, I sometimes think it's a long time after you've finished a project, could be 10 years, and you look back at something and you can then ask the question honestly, without being in the kind of political noise of a project or the commercial noise of it, and say, did that really add value? If we were making that decision again, would we still invest in that? And you can see all of the unintended benefits as well, because you always get some of those as well. They went in the business case, but some good stuff that you didn't plan came out of it as well. I don't know.
It is absolutely. If you were to look back, I mean, we've all looked back on our projects and thought, "Oh, I could have done that better." And And, I take, as our Asana journey as an example, gone are the days of those large project teams. Let's be honest, there's usually 2 or 3 people and you all have to dive in, and those roles, get blurry of what am I to do. And, again, we have to do things at speed now because we have 3 projects lined up ready to go that these resources need to be on. And, Adriana talked about change management. We don't have time for change management like we would want to. It is the biggest struggle, I think, for all of us here is the change management, and especially with a small team. So what we did with the help of our a lovely Asana team is we made our rollouts of technology more movements, and we've created a community. So it was more peer support. So we rolled out Asana to, I call it the willing, the ones who were the most interested, ready to come on board. And we created a community where every Asana user is part of this Teams channel or community to support one another. So we post daily. People have questions, they're wondering what's going on. They can pose their question there, and they can have a peer to say, I've been using product for 3 years. We've done it this way. And we were able to embrace change as a movement and not necessarily something that's dictated or an IT-led initiative again of rolling out another tool. And it's worked really, really well. And sure, we can look back and I could do lots of things different. I think we do that every time. But it's how you support ongoing, because once that project's done, you're on to the next one. But that movement is still happening. And we've seen great strides there.
But how do you get to that next part? Because I mean, what you've talked about there is almost that kind of peer community to kind of get people started, I suppose, get them interested and wanting to try stuff. But at some point, you've got to move from, yeah, this is a new thing and I'm interested in it, to this is now just part of what we do. How do you get that sustainable adoption, if I call it that?
I think that
Yeah.
Asana is a tool that when more people use it, it becomes way more efficient for all of us. You get rid of other things. It's true that it's important that it's integrated in the environment that you're using, and we were talking about it the other day, like with, I don't know, with Microsoft or with Outlook, with Teams, with the tools that everyone uses. And that way it's a change, but it's less of a change because what you're showing them is that they get maybe rid of more emails or more teams, and they have all this information in one same place, and they go just to a tool and they have everything there. So yes, I think it's easier, and the peer, I think it's a super good thing, like the peer to peer that you're driving, because you get other people to answer your question.
Value, definitely the value there, because you're talking about the sustainability, because everyone's excited with a new shiny tool. We all have to have it. Oh my gosh, it's revolutionary. And then it just dies off. But having peer communities, and that constant feedback, updates, rollouts of new versions, and AI now, it really gets people on board and excited to see what other people are doing.
One of the things I've done, and it's kind of worked sometimes and hasn't worked other times, is when you're trying to move from, maybe you're changing software to something new, or it's a new version of the software, is you've got to make sure you switch the old one off, right? Don't let people go back to the old one, because otherwise they'll always be reluctant, because people like familiarity, right? They know how that works. Have either of you done that before? Did it work?
In this sense, it's complicated because you would switch off Excel, and that is impossible to do.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Those are tough. I mean, you have ingrained processes that people don't want to change. It's part of that change management. It is really tough to move. And, we were going from 8 products into one. And you can imagine people were holding on to other products, with an iron fist. And it could have been, our Microsoft project. How many people had the perfect template in Microsoft project that they didn't want to be giving that up? No, it works well. Or an Excel spreadsheet, I can rinse and repeat. And I think that, turning those systems off, but with change management and having those peers, was really helped us with that. But yeah, the parallel systems kill us on a day-to-day basis, don't they, Bruce?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, look, we've talked a lot about kind of where we've come from, where we are. Let's talk a little bit about the future. Um, we know that there's lots of huge opportunity for PMO and for PMO leaders. You mentioned predictability earlier on, so there's that whole space of forecasting. But I think also just day-to-day delivery and operations. But equally, there's a lot of unknowns. I mean, people, I think, when I talk to them, they're excited about AI. They're also a little bit scared about what they don't know, and that fear of the unknown, that kind of is a natural human instinct. And there's going to be, I'm sure, a lot of leaders in the audience today who are trying to kind of navigate the range of different positions that their teams are in. So let's kind of dig into that a bit more. And I'll start with you, Shah. I mean, what would you say is one area that you think the PMO should kind of lean into quite deliberately, almost more boldly? And what one caution would you give for PMO leaders as well?
Again, let's get the caution out of the way. We're all humans. We need to have that human element. But we also have to be, like you say, be brave and jump in and embrace AI. This is revolutionary for us as project managers, as leaders in the project management area. If we don't boldly kind of jump into it, we're going to be left behind because this is going to help us. How many times have we sat hours on hours looking at resource management? And I'm looking at a peer in the room here who I know she struggles day to day on resource management. How many, we have again those spreadsheets where we have these amazing calculations to say, when will my BA be free? When will that next resource be free? And having my CIO go to me, okay, Shar, please tell me when we can start this next project. I've started to use AI with Asana, and some other tools. We use ADO, for example, and starting to pull those metrics together. But it could do it much quicker than my Excel spreadsheet, and it just takes me time to review it. And that is the big area. So I look at predictability. Risk management was another area, predicting risk, because how many times have we been caught, going, oh my gosh, what do you mean that's not going to work? Oh my gosh, why isn't that resource free? Oh my gosh, and those risks, come up, and it's being a lot more predictable with risks as well.
Let's dig into the risk thing a bit more, because I hear this a lot, right? Oh, we won't need risk managers in, even in the next few years, because the AI can do it all, and it'll go off and it'll find every risk register ever written, and it'll use that to kind of populate over, and it'll do all the mitigation. It'll do everything, right? And it'll just pump out the actions at the end. There's a little bit of me that says the bit of the risk management process that helps to mitigate the risk is the internalization of that you get when you go through the process. Is there a risk, no pun intended, that if we lose that bit of the process, that two things happen? One, that somehow we kind of just assume that the risks are taken care of and we haven't really understood them. And then the second one is kind of more of a workforce challenge. If nobody's doing those junior roles anymore, so no one's cutting their teeth doing all of the kind of the handle turning, kind of doing the risk register and all of that. Do we have a proper workforce development route for those people who are going to come in to those more senior roles if they haven't done some of that basic stuff? Or does that matter even? I don't know. Adriana, what do you think?
I think that, well, they would like AI is here to elevate and to give us like you have or you start like with this level and AI is coming to elevate this level and it starts, as you were saying, from an upper level than the one that we're used to or where we started. But even though if people start from knowing some things or AI can help them in, don't know, writing emails, making spreadsheets, making automatizations of certain topics, uh, the knowledge of, I don't know, the industry or the experience that you have in certain topics. Shar was saying it, you cannot delete like the human approach of that sometimes when you have a project, yes, the risk, maybe you have a super good dashboard and it gets with the monitoring and green lights or red lights of everything. But the experience of people that this project is not going good because of this, and this, or maybe we should do this other approach because I know that this team is focused on this way or the other way. And that experience, you still need the people behind to make these decisions. The AI can help you to give you like the metrics or things like that, but I totally agree with the human-centric approach that we need for everything, and not forget that here in PMO it's true that we are super focused in all the metrics and in everything, but we are working with people. The people are the project managers, and we should go through a human-centered AI.
Well, sometimes I argue against my own point, by the way. So one of the things I sometimes say is, oh yeah, but it's a bit like when we started using cars instead of walking. Does that mean we'll miss everything that we would have seen when we were walking because we're doing it kind of much quicker? And actually, it's just different, isn't it? I think you just see different things and it gets you different places. And sometimes you want to walk and sometimes you want to go in the car. And I just wonder if AI just becomes like that. It might not be the thing that you do for everything, every task, everywhere, all of the time. But when you use it in the right way, it just massively accelerates and amplifies what you're trying to do, like you said.
It absolutely does because, again, those repetitive tasks, creating a project plan. But saying that, we learned from building our project plans. We learned what we needed to do. We knew those dependencies. It can look, but if you were to look even at, and I'm using again moving a DC, something was hard coded. Maybe there was someone's Linux server that's sitting under their desk for the last 25 years that ran payroll that we didn't know about. AI doesn't know that. But John sure does. And so I need to have that conversation with John. So you can't remove the human element. Everyone's experience in this room helps you to deliver projects. Remember that AI is your assistant. It is the one that can go and do your summary quicker, be a bit more predictive, help you with your resource management. But it can't say, oh gosh, Sally's sick today. And so we can't meet that, that I don't know, they were there to move the software. It can't do that.
Yet.
It can't do yet because Sally is sick. And so we still need fundamentally still need humans in the room.
Yeah.
But to save us time to again work with our stakeholders.
So I'm going to just give you, each of you, just a 30-second closing thought. But my prompt question is going to be this. AI, as AI continues to evolve, what's the one thing that you are most excited about when it comes to AI transforming how your organization works? And I'm going to come to you, Adriana, first.
How AI is going to transform? I think it's what we were mentioning before. It's going to help us get rid of repetitive tasks, maybe help us with the workflows that we need for it to manage. But in terms of, I think it's going to be a lot of change for the coming years, not only in terms of technology, that we need to have this new technology. This technology is here to stay and it helps us a lot, but it will change how we're working, the organizations even that we have in place right now, or the skills that we need to do in order to work with this type of technology.
Fantastic. Final thoughts from yourself.
Oh gosh, there's lots, isn't there? I see it in our organization now, and it isn't just predictability on rolling out a project. It is helping us even work with our customers better. The predictability of churn, the predictability of product usage, and I think because we can be that step ahead for the first time. For the longest time, I felt like I was always on the back foot, catching up and running. Now I feel this gives us an opportunity to be that step ahead so we can engage better. We can, develop quicker and we can roll out projects faster.
Amazing. Well, I feel hugely excited about the future, having heard both what you've got to say. So, I'll just quickly wrap up before we finish. We've talked about innovation, predictability, the balance of people and technology, the need to embrace change if we're going to really drive the pace that we need to move at. Not just learning the lessons, but applying the lessons, as you talked about. If we really want to get true adoption, switch off the old stuff. That seems to be important. Your really important points around using the power of peers and the community that comes with those. But I think the thing that ties everything together today is the importance of using AI to amplify and accelerate the human effort, if you like, because it'll change how we work and also how we operate. This has been an amazing discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please put your hands together for Shah and Adriana?
That was really nice.